Alright guys, so today I'm going to take you through some tips and tricks with Master Merchant. Hopefully these tips and tricks will improve your Master Merchant experience a bit and help you analyze and use the data that's in there a little bit better. So first I'm going to show you in the settings a couple of things that need to be turned on to be able to do the things that I'm going to show you how to do today. So you're going to want tips on graph points turned on and level/quality selectors turned on. And as a quick aside, if you're ever having any trouble loading your character in with Master Merchant turned on, your loads take forever and ever, and occasionally you get kicked back to the character selection screen, turn delay initialization on. What that's going to do is it's going to make it so that your character gets to load in completely before MM tries to start itself up and do its thing. That's going to stop MM from being the reason you have long load-ins. So that's a good option to have. So we're going to take a look here at this blue War Maidens necklace in my inventory. I'm going to right click it, go to pop-up item data. So now we've got this nice pop-up here. We can see on the pop-up that I've got 11 days of data, 15 sales, and suggested price of around 1,400 gold based on 11 days of data. So the first thing we turned on was tips on graph points. So what that does is when you mouse over any of the points on the graph, you're going to see all the data pertaining to that point. So the guild, who sold it, what it was, who they sold it to, and for how much. So with this data, you can see exactly what that data point's telling you, which is especially good when you're between the ranges that it actually lists on the graph. You're like, well, how much was that point actually? Like this point here in the middle, okay, it was 2,000. So that's handy. Or you can see this 1,300, 1,300, 1,000, and 1,000. So you can see the exact data of each point by mousing over them, which really helps take the mystery out of that. So the other thing we turned on was the level/quality selectors. But those are these arrows here on the sides of the pop-up. So if I hit these green arrows, I'll now be looking at a green War Maidens necklace, which we have no data for. Or I can go here to the purple, and we can look at the purple War Maidens necklace, which I do have data for. So we can see we've got sales of the last 9 days ranging from 50,000 down to about 10,000. And again, we can mouse over all the points and we can see the individual sales data, what guilds and whatnot. You'll also notice, and you may already know about this, but you'll notice that I have different colored points on my graph. And those do pertain to each of my guilds, and those are based off the chat colors you have set for each of those guilds. So in the default, base game, chat settings, whatever colors you have set for your different guilds are automatically going to be the colors that show up on the graph in MM. If you've got all your guilds set the same color, you're going to see the same thing, which is another place where if you're doing that, being able to mouse over the graph points to get the tip helps you determine what guild it came from if you're not using different chat colors. Another thing to note too is that these level quality selectors, you can actually, we can look at a golden War Maidens necklace, which is, as far as I know, not available in game currently. It does theoretically exist, and these are its theoretical stats and whatnot, and it may become available at some point later from the golden vendor. So again, we also have the L here, lets you do the level, so I'll change 150, 140, etc. And then so you can cycle through the quality and the level just like that. Alright, so the other thing we turned on, or no, excuse me, this last thing we're going to cover we didn't turn on. This is actually a default. So I'm going to go back to my original blue War Maidens necklace, which has 11 days of data. Now, what if I want to look at less days of data and have it give me a price suggestion based on that? So by default, if you hold down the shift key, you will see 10 days there. You see my data has changed. 11 days, now down to 10. So at 10 days, the MM suggestion is a little lower. Well, 10 days is great, but what if we want to go lower than that? Can we do 3 days? Yes, we can. If you hold down the control key while looking at MM data, you will see by default 3 days of data. So we see over the last 3 days, this is sold for 1,000 gold pretty consistently. that seems to be its leveled off price in recent times. So this is extremely handy because you can see, especially with items that are relatively new and the price is changing quickly, you can see what something is selling for essentially right now. This is what it's going for. This is its real price, so to speak. So you can use that. Now let's say, can I use that focus in the guild store in some way? Yes. Yes, you can. So let's go to the guild store here. And we're going to search for Heartwood. So I've pulled up some Heartwood here. Now I haven't done anything funny when I did this search. This is just, basic search. And we've got these percentages here that MM throws out to, give us the relative idea of how good a deal this is or is not. So this is based on all my data. So 17 days of data I have on Heartwood are what these percentages are based on. If I hold down the Shift key before I search, and you'll see now that the percentage has changed. So now that search is based on 10 days of data. If I mouse over, I'm still getting, if I'm still going to get the 17 unless I hold the Shift. But the percentages are set at the time of the search. So if I was holding the Shift at the time of the search, those percentages are based on the 10 days of data. Now if I hold Control, we've got 3 days, and you'll see the percentages have changed yet again. So you can do that, and you can see those percentages you get are going to be real. You're going to see, current or more current prices. Now you're like, wow, that's really awesome. Now, what if, I just want to always be looking at 3 days or 10 days of data? Well, you can do that too. So we'll go back to the settings really quick here. So in the settings, if you scroll up to the top and you go into your calculation and tip options, you're going to see focus 1 days. So number of days for focus 1, 10. That's your shift default. Focus 2 days, 3. You may want to change these, you may not. Personally, I think 10 and 3 are about perfect. I think going lower than 3 is giving you far too little data to actually make any sort of decisions on. And I think more than 10 days is really outside the range of what's relevant. So I think these are actually set very well by default. Now, this is where if you wanted to see, 10 or 3 days all the time, you got your default days range. Now it's normally set to all. It's going to show all your data. You can change that to focus 1 or focus 2, which is your 10 or 3 days, or whatever you've decided to custom change that to for yourself. You can also choose to see none, which is basically not seeing MM data. Why you'd run MM and then not want to see the data, I don't understand, but you do have that option regardless. You also have the option to change whether shift is focus 1 or is focus 2, or in control and all that. Not really a lot of need to change that, but again, you do have the option. What you do not have the option to do is to change the key that does the focus. It's either shift or control and shift at the same time. Those are your options. That's what you can do. You don't really have other ways of doing it, unfortunately. Control shift I think exists as an option, mainly because let's say you're using voice chat of some sort and you like to use control as your push to key, which I do. So maybe I'd want to opt to, instead of having control, actually do something MM, change that to control shift so that I'm not changing my MM data just because I've decided to talk. So that option exists. So that's that. That's all I had that I wanted to cover in this video for you guys. I hope these couple of tips have been useful. Oh, actually, one more thing. Let's back up. I forgot to mention on the pop-up, when you pop up an item data and you change the quality, you can, from there, if you right-click on the tip, you can actually link the item or link the stats, that being the MM price for that. And if you want to be a real troll, and I do not in any way endorse trolling, you could theoretically link the gold War Maiden's necklace from that pop-up as well. So, the option exists. Don't be a troll. But it is something to be aware of, because you will see people do this from time to time. They'll use level quality selectors and navigate to a quality or level of item that, strictly speaking, doesn't exist or isn't available. So don't be fooled by that. It is something people can do, and people do that from time to time. So something to be aware of, and it is handy and useful when used properly. So again, this is the real end of the video now. Thank you all for watching. I hope this has been useful. And if you have any other tips or tricks when using Master Merchant that you'd like to share, please leave a comment, and I'll check it out. And if it's really, really useful, I'll do another video on it. I really want people to have this information and people to know how to use this stuff to really thrive in the market that exists in Elder Scrolls Online. So thank you all very much, and have a great day.